everyone. Welcome to another episode of Relative Pitch. We are so excited to be joined today by Ashley Michelle Crawford, hashtag Flute Bay, actually.
Yes,
She's
Hello.
an educator, flutist, and activist within the music realm. So, Ashley, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I am truly grateful for this opportunity. And I was so excited when you reached out to me about it because your purpose and the mission statement of your podcast aligns with basically everything that I do. So I feel right at home already.
So, and I'm sure you have such a huge following. We'll talk about that as well later. But for people who may not have come across some of your videos, or maybe they didn't know that was you, let people know what did you come from? What are you doing currently? What's happening?
Okay, so the brand's name is Flute Bay, just hashtag Flute Bay. And it came, I guess I should say, it kind of dropped in my lap a little bit. In 2017, when the whole hashtag mask off challenge happened, you remember the do everybody was playing this melody. Yeah. So the first flutist I saw do it was Lizzo. So I'm getting tags and stuff hey, and I was doing natural hair videos and stuff at the time, but the people who were closest to me knew, I played flute and everything. And they were like, hey, Ashley, check this out. You play flute, do it. And I'm like, okay, sure. So I cut on this song. I hear this flute line. I'm already excited because flute, everything in this track is based around this flute sample. So I'm like, okay, all right, here we go. I learned the little sample. My husband comes home. I'm like, okay, I want to do this mask off video. And he's like, what? So we're older. So we're like, mask off, just do the video. Just hold the camera. I'm going to play. I'll tell you when to press play on the song. And I'm just going to do my little flute ditty or whatever.
Yeah.
So we're basically playing too much at this point. Okay, let's just do it. I record it, post, hit exit. That's what I do. That's anxiety, I guess. Post, get out of the app. Then all of a sudden my phone starts to go crazy. One of my old band friends had posted it on Twitter. I wasn't on Twitter at this time. And I guess it had gone extremely viral on Twitter. I had no handle. No one knew who I was. So they just dubbed me Flute Bay. We don't know who this girl is. We're going to call her Flute Bay. And I was like, I like that. I like that. So I took it and I took off with it and I ran with it. And I remember that whole experience with playing whatever these classical lines were on top of this future song, how freeing it was for me. And I was like, oh, I didn't have anyone critiquing me, anyone judging me, it was none of that. It was just myself, my flute, and people's ears. And they loved what they heard. And I just held on to that. Sorry, my daughter is being a 2-year-old, but I just held on to that. And the rest is history. It's just been life-changing for me. So that's how Flute Bay got started.
I was a retweeter. Okay. When it came, I was a retweeter. I was a sharer. I remember the whole Flute Bay whole thing. And I did not know it was you.
Well, thank you.
But I was like, we got a classical flute player out here doing the little diddles. And I'm like, yes, please give me more. So yes, I was definitely a supporter from day one.
Yes. And during this time, I had just been recently hired at Tennessee State University, fall 2016. The mask off situation, I think, happened spring 2017 or something. Yeah, it was March 2017. So these new students in my studio, they were like, okay, our teacher is really cool. Yes. So with the whole Flute Bay thing, it has been pivotal, and recruiting, just overall attracting students, especially students of color, because they they see the even ground there. Like, okay, she gets us. Yeah. She gets us. She'll pick up her flute and she'll play a Mozart concerto or a Ibert concerto, or she'll conduct flute choir, but then she'll also cut on this scissor song or cut on this song and groove to it and write arrangements for us to play to it. And like they just feel so seen and just so heard. And I just love what this brand has done for, of course, myself and other young musicians, up and coming musicians who see what's happening with this.
I love that, and I think we like Lizzo is definitely due credit for the idea of using a traditional instrument and kind of implementing it into popular music, and that's
absolutely
talked about of integrating classical and pop, and that's becoming a huge subject I think in the field right now, and it's so cool how that's something you really champion, and we see that, and we see how it wasn't even just musicians. It was like just people who love music, and they were like, this is the coolest thing, retweeting and saying this is amazing. And it's crazy how some people still can't see how important that integration is nowadays, especially with today's like youth. And like you said, recruitment goes up crazy when they see that their professor is someone who is interested and like not only interested but advocate for integration with classical and popular music. So when did that start? At any point in your education, or did you have mentors who were really big about that integration, or was it just something that happened?
So teachers who were big on that integration, absolutely not. And I love my teachers to death, don't get me wrong, okay? Especially my undergrad flute teacher, mentor. She's one of the heartbeats of my career. I will say that. Middle-aged white woman, but she's the coolest middle-aged white woman you'll ever meet. She's one of those allies that we say, oh, this person happens to be white, okay? When I started the classical flute hip hop situation, it came after the mask off thing, because I just nose dive just right into it. Like, okay, this works for me. This makes me feel good. Because up until this point, when you're classically training, and a lot of people use this term loosely, I'm classically trained. When you're classically training, they are training you to be the next symphony, whatever, next principal, and it's intense. There's no room for error, no room for mistakes. And when you make those mistakes, it's the worst mistake ever. You beat yourself up about it, you tear yourself down, and it's a hard road to travel. When I got to this crossroad of, okay, I want to play my instrument on hip hop tracks, on R&B tracks, just be in pop culture. It was an easy decision to make because, like I mentioned before, I felt free. Playing these classical lines, I would take something from a Mozart, take something from a Martin, take something from whatever composer, and put it in this hip hop music. And then all of a sudden people get it. Just like that. Like you said, like there was just people who weren't musicians that say, hey, I felt this, but I'm playing like this romantic Vidor, whatever, the trained musicians, they're like, did you just put a little Beethoven number 5 up in there? And then other people are just like, hey, it sounds good and it feels good and I want to hear more of it. And that was freeing to me because up until this point, everything I did was just judge. Everything just comb through, fine tooth comb. You have to play it this way. You have to stand this way. You have to look this way. You got to hold it this way. You have to carry yourself this way. You have to dress this way. And once I got into the culture, once I implemented myself into the culture, I let all that go. All that was gone. All of it was gone. And I was able to not only be a classical flutist or a jazz flutist or whatever title you want to put on the type of way I play. You can't really put it in a box. I just say I'm a flutist. I play the flute. I pick it up and I don't know what's going to come out. I may play some jazz here, some classical there. I may fuse it all together. But what's most important is I play the music and the listener gets it and they feel it. And at that point, I've done my job. I've shared my gift. As far as my teachers are concerned, going back to the integration of it and people accepting it, people who were a part of my classical training, giving me lessons or, teaching music classes, no, they didn't get it at first. They looked at me crazy for a while. My undergrad teacher, she's always championed for me. She's just like, I love this. I don't know what it is. I don't get it. I don't know what a future is. I don't know what a mascot is, but it sounds great. Your tone is awesome. Like, she would speak from a flutist point of view. But people getting it and embracing it, it was not like that at first. A lot of people, turned their noses up at it and was like, oh, this doesn't make sense. You're tarnishing classical music. This is blasphemy. This is, so I got a lot of negative criticism, but I didn't let that influence me. I just kept going. So, and like you said, now everybody wants to know, hey, how do you do it? Or you see more people doing it now.
Yeah, that upsets me so much because I think in education, when we are classically trained, our teachers in the institution of higher ed wants us to go down that one path, only symphony orchestra or only wind ensemble, or you have to be classical where you're gonna play Bach, Beethoven, Mozart, all those. But I think now we're coming to the point where, yes, I went to music school, but I can be anything other. I can go play with Beyonce and be paid one of the top paid musicians in the world because I'm touring with the Beyonce. And I don't think our education teaches us that at all. In which I want to say one thing that you talked about how you would play a classical song and then bring out with some hip hop. Like one of the first times I ever saw that integration was actually the famous Richard Smallwood gospel legend. How before he would play Total Praise, he would have this I think it might have been like a Beethoven piano thing or something, and then next thing you hear is that first chord of Total Praise, and I'm like, I just had a whole concert going on right here. And like, it really drew me in at a young age. So classical music can also be in other forms as well. And I just think we need more of that integration going on because I think in our classical realm, people look down on popular music, hip hop, R&B, whatever.
Yes.
But it's funny because on the other side, they'll play something that has those same hip hop beats on their concerts because they know that's what people want to hear. And I'm like, right now, you're giving me Two-Face right now. You're giving me Two-Face.
Yeah, and you see a lot of this symphony with Nas, this symphony with Jay-Z, this symphony with like, oh, okay. Now the girls want the girls to come in and hear the symphony, hear the orchestra. But you can't keep being elitist about it and gatekeeping it, where only this certain demographic of people get to come in and hear the symphony. No, music is music. And you should not put your noses up at someone because they've decided to release a pop song with some strings in it or something like that, or with a classical flute line. Now, all of a sudden, this classical music is tainted because you put it over a Justin Bieber beat or a Future beat or something like that. Like, no.
Well, for a lot,
the same purpose.
So sorry. For a lot of people, when they hear those instruments in a popular culture sense, that's probably the first time they heard it. And they're actually going to realize what they are, because like when we're going into this band thing, they're like, this is the trumpet. This is how it plays and all this other stuff. And Anthony sent me this video the other night because last semester I dove deep into non-traditional music history. And I did a whole semester of research on Outkast and the evolution of Dirty South and rap in Atlanta and how it was born in Atlanta and made Atlanta rap capital. He sent me the new Deco Ensemble doing an Outkast suite. I don't like listening to strings. I listen to 20 minutes worth of strings and I didn't stop because it combined two of the passions. And imagine just like how many people would listen to that and go to that concert over and over. And then that could range them to start not understanding. You don't need to understand Strauss or Mahler. If you can appreciate it and we can give you something in a performance, we talked about this in class. When you go see a lot of orchestras, they all look like they hate their lives.
Oh, absolutely.
Because they're sitting there, they're like, and I'm like, if we all just move a little bit, like, and look like we're enjoying the performance.
Yes.
How, like, I was told a couple of times, they're like, Michael, you move too much. You're never going to get called into a trumpet section. I'm like, then I don't want to be in that trumpet section. Yeah. If I can't move the way I like to move when I play music, I don't want to be there. It's that simple.
Exactly. And I feel the same way. I've been in situations or classical ensemble settings where I was a bit too much for that setting. Because if I feel the music, I don't care what I'm playing. We're playing Mendelssohn, we're playing Bach, we're playing whoever. If I feel the line, I'm in the line, and I've had people either embrace that, or I was surrounded by other players who were on the same wave frequency where we're all moving the same way, and it's a beautiful thing to see. Or there has been the opposite end of the spectrum where people are looking at me like, you need to sit on the edge of your seat and be still and play the line and, keep it together. And, I just didn't return to that next rehearsal because I was like, no, this isn't my home. This isn't my home. I can't, like, how can you be completely still and play music? Do you like it? Like what you said, are you enjoying it?
Are you enjoying it? Right. And I saw a concert recently, and they were playing a piece by African-American composer. And they were supposed to be representing a church service, a good old Pentecostal Baptist church. And the way they were playing, and I'm like, let me just tell you, hun, we don't do that. Like, we are not in our seats, just sitting down comfortably playing a piece or singing a piece in church. We are moving, we are doing something. And honestly, the way they were sitting is the way I heard the piece. Bland, boring, you shouldn't, like, if you're not feeling the music, what is music? When we start putting these, all these criticisms, and we start putting all these requirements on music, what is music then? Because music's supposed to come from within. It's supposed to be something as close to the heart as we have humanly possible. So when you start telling people how to act, or telling people what is correct, what is quality, we're now taking away what really is music.
Exactly.
And like that.
And to expand on that, my recent viral moment where the internet just drugged me, I played a major scale and did not resolve the seventh. Lauren, you look triggered. You're like, I did see that.
It was really funny because did you see Garrett McQueen's response?
Yes, I did.
That part, for me hearing that, then seeing that, it was hilarious to me. But yes. I remember like listening to it, and I just resolved it myself. I was like,
I sung it. I sung go. I was like, there you go. I resolved it myself.
You said there you go. But there were some musicians, like, it was a joke. I'm always, like I say, I play too much on the internet sometimes. And I was like, oh, this is funny. It was hilarious in my head. Like, this is going to go great. Once again, posted the video, exit out of the app, went on about my business.
Yeah.
All hell broke loose. There were people who were legit upset because they kept saying, you're supposed to resolve this scale. You're a classical musician. You're supposed to play do.
Am I?
Am I?
How about you pick your instrument up and you play do?
Right. And we saw what happened with responses, like musicians took this leading tone and turned it into something completely just out of this world, created songs and tracks around this. They created a loop out of it. But I always say, like, yes, classical music has its set of rules, a book of rules, we know, but rules are meant to be broken at some point. And that's a lot of what my brand is based around. Like, yes, I'm a classical trained flutist, but I'm breaking rules all up and through, all up and through. And like you said, it's music. These composers that a lot of people want to gatekeep and hold near and dear and say, you cannot deviate from what these dead old white men did back in the day. These men or these composers, women included, they were criticized during their time. We have to think about Bach. Bach wasn't appreciated until how many years later? Hundreds of years later.
Yeah. And they don't even get that right, to be honest, because the way we hold Mozart's music, majority of it was supposed to be played while parties are going. It's background music, but we're holding it like this is the top echelon of music. And I'm like, I know we were sitting in the same history class. I know we were sitting in the same history. So where did this disconnect happen? When did we say, okay, this is the top? No, I promise you, most of them people weren't even listening to this music. They were over here drinking. They were over here doing some devilish activities. They were not listening. They weren't. So why now? Why now?
That reminds me of my going silent protest with orchestra concerts. So now when I go to an orchestra concert, if I see a piano or violin concerto, I skip it on purpose. I walk out right before that piece goes, and I make it very apparent, because we always hear a violin and piano concerto. Where's my bassoon? Where's my tuba? Where's an actual instrument that I want to listen to? Like, literally, I don't want to just. Like, I'm over here like, what? You want to tickle the ivories? Okay, go tickle them. I do not. And someone looked at me, they're like, you're wasting your money. I said, well, money well wasted. Because when I walked out and I was like Appalachian Spring in this piece, and I walked out and it was this little old white man, I said, bye. Because guess how many musicians walked out with me? All of the principal players, because they don't play on concertos. So that's my silent protest. But I just saw one of your tweets and it made me like love it. It says, revising this bio, reminding myself who TF I am. I was like, I love that, because
thank you.
Yeah, because in classical music, we're like always grinding and moving to the next, moving to the next, moving to the next. And it's like, we're always not good enough, blah, blah, blah. And I've been doing my CV, getting ready for some job applications. And I'm like, I have like almost 9 pages.
All right.
I was like, wow, I did do stuff. Why don't I feel like I did things? Why do I feel like I've never done enough? And it's like, it's this like bad mindset we've been like entrenched on while training for classical music. And that's why I think a big thing, whenever I get to a university, I'm like, every university in this country should have a psychologist and an Alexander technique teacher.
Yes.
Because how am I going to deal with a bad performance? How am I going to deal with when I go in front of my student teaching and feel like I'm going to fail every kid and I'm going to make them hate music? How am I going to deal with, I hate my colleagues I play in this ensemble with because they're like, they think the things I do are stupid. Well, I think they're stupid. Like, how am I going to deal with it?
I love it.
Like, it's just like, yes.
Yeah. You're reminding me of so many experiences I had, pursuing my degrees, my undergraduate, my master's. I was fortunate enough, I would say privileged enough. I grew up in a Black bubble. And to me, that is privilege. Black preschool, Black neighborhood, Black elementary, middle, high school, HBCU. Once I got to Belmont, which is predominantly white, I was like, oh, where did they come from? Who are these people? I'm acting silly. I'm silly, y'all. But I immediately realized, oh my gosh, I'm the subculture here. I'm the subdominant culture here. I don't know what these people are talking about. What's in your pop culture? What movie? What act? What who? What music? So it was a culture shock for me. Although Belmont is like 15 minutes up the road from Tennessee State.
Right.
So, like you said, like people not liking what you do. So I'm bringing this HBCU flavor up the street.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the only, I think, it was myself and another colleague of mine. We were the only two Black women in the graduate program or flute program there. And her primary was piano. Her secondary was flute. So it wasn't as intense on her as it was on me. Primary was flute, classical flute performance, instrumental pedagogy. Like I said, it was intense.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't getting the backlash or feeling othered by other professors. They were very welcoming of me, but it was my peers, other students. We went to the same blind audition, played the same excerpts. I ended up getting principal flute during my time there. And I remember there was this one performance that they have every year. It's called Christmas at Belmont, televised, big event. And right before showtime, right before the producer came out there and said action and the camera started rolling and we started playing, one of my peers, I'm not going to say her name, but if you're listening, you said this to me. She just turned to me and said, "You're going to get all the camera time because you're Black." And then she turned around and picked her flute up, and I'm stuck at this point. I'm like, how do I respond to this? Do I check it right here?
on camera.
On camera.
Real quick.
I would have kicked her stand. I would have kicked her stand.
Right.
Put the leg out. Just put the
Michael, I should have.
Would have kicked that stand off that stage.
But we went through the same audition process now. Like, this is blind auditions. Belmont, great school, almost conservatory level. Okay, so it's not like the other girls couldn't play. All the girls could play in the sections.
Yeah.
But I think, it was myself. Outside of me, I think there were two other Black members of the Symphony. So she said this to me, and as you can see, it stuck with me years down the line. Like, this experience, like, whoa, I'm gonna get all the camera time because I'm Black. So you're saying that I'm other, and they're gonna highlight, oh, here's a little speck in here, guys. Look.
We have it checkmarked. We have a Black musician in the orchestra. Mm-hmm.
Needless to say, all of the orchestra members got adequate amount of camera time. There were no favorites, but it never ceases to amaze me how people would just overlook the disparities we face in these settings. And like I said, go outside from growing up in a Black bubble where I felt like I was the majority for a long time. I grew up in Memphis, Tennessee, Black city. Got to Nashville. Whoa, okay. And that's when I started to feel the otherness, and especially being in a classical music setting, I have to breathe through it because it's something that still happens today, even, teaching in higher education. It's time to even the playing ground. And I know we're going to get to that soon in our conversation. But yes, Michael, I wish I would have thought of some silent protest. Maybe I should have got up and walked off stage. I'm like, okay, since,
she would have got checked right in there on camera. see me right here. Let me tell you something.
I wanted to, but I was so stuck in that moment. It was like, how do I? Yeah. And it was never addressed because, of course, we went on with the show and performed and, but to bring yourself to just, and it was like it was eating her alive. She just had to say it. Mm-hmm. You're going to get all the camera time because you're Black. Mm-hmm. What?
She thought about that for a long time. She festered on that for a while.
And I can just like see this, like, and I hate that happened because like when people do that, there's something insecure about themselves that they have not like addressed. Like I know if that happened to, let's say, Anthony at one of our big concerts, the concert's stopping for 5 minutes, and it's and it's okay because I'm gonna get my little phone, just be like, because like
it would be a televised moment. Like, don't you ever in your life. And I think honestly, as you had the privilege of growing up in like a Black bubble, like when I grew up, I had that as well. But I had my father, I call him a pseudo Black Panther, where it's like, if somebody say something to you, you have the right to say it back. So that was where my upbringing would have came out of like, excuse me, pause. What did you just say to me? Like, how dare you? Especially, and I know Belmont I remember when I was looking at schools of music, they were like number one. They were like number one. Highly expensive, but number one. And I was like, oh wow, this seems like a great school. And they offer way much more than classical music. But something about Nashville, Tennessee, it's like, I don't know. I mean, I didn't really go to a school much better, but that's neither here nor there. But still, I think that goes unspoken for Black musicians. That whenever we do get to a high place, we're always going to have those people that think, well, it's only because you're Black that you got placed in front of you.
Okay, well, ladies.
Yes.
And that is just, let alone talent, blind audition, whatever, because I'm Black, I'm placed in front of you. The fact that you think that, the fact that you believe I'm so less than tells me more about you than anything.
Exactly.
It's kind of something, this is something because we all went to undergrad, like me, Michael, Anthony went to undergrad together. And so we had a lot of these conversations very young as well, where we saw things happening. And it's always the thing, and there were a lot of things that I want to break down with what we just talked about. The idea of being in these ensembles when you go from, you going from HBCU to a PWI, and then you're the minority. And it's almost like, because we know that like we are the minority, it's internalized that like we almost have to prove that we belong in those spaces. Maybe not even just to them, but to ourselves even. And it's so internalized sometimes where I'll make a mistake in a rehearsal and I'll beat myself up. Like I will be like, oh my gosh, you messed that up in front of everybody. Now everyone's gonna go, oh, that was it. That's what we were, because I'm always thinking someone's waiting for me to slip.
Yes.
I couldn't be in those spaces. But then if it's someone else, even myself, like, oh, they're having an off day or something. Maybe they just were tired. They didn't get to practice at one spot. So I give more mercy to everybody else, but my own self, I don't. Like they won't. and it's
right
thing of like it happens all the time in those settings where if you are a minority in these organizations, these institutions, it's like you have to prove yourself 10 times harder than anyone else you're sitting next to, because they already have a place there, right? To them that they do belong here. But for us, who we are I don't even know if minority is even the word to use for it, but barely even there. Like we have to overprove all the time. We have to give more of ourselves. And that's always something in departments. It easily happens where someone goes, "Oh, Lauren's just amazing. She does all these things, always so involved and everything." I'm like, because if I wasn't, would you see me? Like, if I wasn't trying to implement myself into every single layer of this organization, this institution, this program, would you even see me? And so it was just really interesting to hear those perspectives, and those situations are not uncommon. The one you went through for that Christmas show is not uncommon, and people have, what is it? Not it was what is it? Where something affirmative action. There you go. I was like, it's AA, but not the other, not the other AA, but
Not the Alcoholic
not
Anonymous.
the Alcoholic Anonymous. But like people are just, and that's for them. It just looks good for them. They go, check. We have a Black person, we have a LGBTQ, and we have like females. Like great, we have one of each, or maybe they're combined, and we're good, and that's it. But how are in those institutions, in those programs, like are you hearing them, or are they just there?
Right. And dialing back into the Flute Bay brand, like I always say, it freed me, because now you can't tell me what to do. Now you can't scrutinize me, you can't criticize me. Now there are no juries. Diving deeper into that brand, there was something I told myself. It was like, okay, I'm going to stop trying to fight to be in the symphony. And that's not any slight to Black musicians who have made the top chair, who have made a name for themselves in that setting. But just speaking personally for me, my mindset went from, I'm going to stop trying to be within this organization or fight to have a seat at your table. I'm going to build my own table. I'm going to build my own chair. I don't care how much I have to, how much elbow grease I got to put in to build my own situation, but I'm going to do that. And my mindset went from being within this thing to wanting to be in front of it. So if I get a call from a symphony, it's like, hey, Flute Bay, you've done this, you've done this, you've done this. We got Nas coming in and we want you to play hip hop concerto number 1. Or whatever the case may be. But just paving my own road, where yes, it's hard because you're paving your own thing. Okay. A lot of times you're traveling that road alone. But fighting so hard to be accepted by something that initially wasn't designed for me in the first place, I got over it quickly. I got over it really quickly. So yeah, I take that mindset throughout my brand, throughout my own teaching within my own studio. That's why it's imperative for me to teach at an HBCU. It is imperative for students to see someone who looks like them. When I first got hired and I did my introduction to the flute students there, one of the first things that a girl said was, look at her hair. And I had my hair, like my curls were out big and stuff. Look at her hair, her skin. Her, like they're like, yeah, flute is cute and everything, but you look at this Black woman.
Yes.
Like that, these were the whispers that was happening in there. And I was like, okay, I got work to do here. And now I'm going into year 5 and we've grown exponentially and the talent there. Oh my goodness. There's so many of us out here just so talented and just underrepresented. And I've just made it my mission to get us out there, basically.
Right. And we thank you. We really thank you for that, because it is taking people like you doing this for where we're not looking for the other's acceptance, where we're like, we are fine with being who we are. And I want to talk about, it's very unfortunate that Black musicians, we have this like path where we have to go through hell, through undergraduate and graduate. And then when we finally graduate with our degrees, then we can finally say, all right, we are comfortable enough to start to make change. And I think that's what we're going through right now, is we're going through those trials and tribulations. But once we get that final signature on that page, everything, we're flipping tables and we're turning it up, because we don't want the next generation of talented musicians to have to go through this. And one thing that I love, and I was so excited to hear that you are the president of the Nashville African American Wind Symphony, yes, which we were just talking about how there are like no like I would say big wind symphonies. You have your orchestras, but never anything about wind ensemble activities. And then for it to be an African American wind symphony. As a conductor that has fallen in love with just wind ensemble, and I love just wind ensemble music, when I saw this, I was like, I feel seen finally. So thank you so much for just doing that and making that stride. Thank you.
Yeah, so diving into NAS, or Nashville African American Wind Symphony Incorporated, okay?
Yes, Incorporated.
A year ago, I was approached by our CEO, musical director, Bruce Ayers. He came to me. It was the coolest thing. He was like, "Yeah, I need a moment of your time, a Zoom call." We get on this Zoom call. He hits share screen. This PowerPoint pops up. I'm like, okay, what are we doing? He starts to delve into NAS and this mission statement and its goals and objectives, its vision. I'm seeing all this thing. I'm like, okay. This is really cool. Like, I'm getting excited. Yeah. And he gets to the last slide and he was like, okay, I told you all this to say this. And it's a picture of me that popped up and said, will you be my president or my COO? And I'm like, who, me? Me? Of course. So ever since then, we hit the ground running, like getting our board together, reaching out to ensemble members that we already knew in the city, asking them like, hey, do you want to play somewhere? And of course they were like, yeah, absolutely. So putting their names down, having meetings after meetings, like I'm talking about 3-4 hour meetings, trying to pull this thing together. And we finally got to a point where we had instruments in place, rehearsal venue in place, everything we needed to get started, just initially start. First rehearsal, we announced the first rehearsal. We had about, I think, close to 50 members show up, full instrumentation for everything that we planned to play. It was so overwhelming. And when I did our welcome speech, one thing that I made mention was, this thing is bigger than us. Mm-hmm. We want this thing to thrive and be here long after us. Mm-hmm. And this is the inaugural group. We are making history. We are changing things. We are impacting. Wear it on your chest. Wear that hat. It's heavy, I know, but wear it. Because this is only going to open up more opportunities, hopefully on a national scale, international scale. We don't know how far it's going to go, but just with it starting here, that's all we need. That's all we need, just for people to see it. And just with the name, the Nashville African American Wind Symphony, we wanted to put it just plainly put. This is a professional ensemble setting for Black classical musicians who need a safe place. Yes. Who need a home to do what it is that they do, to have fun, to do what it is that they do. And also, it allows us, room for youth initiatives to get out into the community, into these inner city schools, and making sure these kids see players that look like them. There are so many kids out here in these public schools that have not been to the Symphony Center. One, because they don't feel like they belong there. And two, sadly enough, they've never heard, this music played professionally by professional musicians. And three, they don't expect these people to look like them. So it's like, why would I go listen to this if, I don't even belong here to begin with? But if we create this professional ensemble and we continue to build and get into these schools, they'll see it. And they'll think that they can do it. A lot of kids think that they can't do something all because they've never seen it, or someone told them, or never told them it was possible. And we are here to show all the possibilities.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because I know when I was growing up, I didn't see Black conductors for wind ensemble. I didn't see that. I didn't even see orchestral conductors who were, Black. I was like, is that a thing? It's like,
right.
Where is this?
Right.
So just that visibility changes a lot. I think my big inspiration was, well, I didn't see it while I was growing up, so I'm gonna change that. I'm gonna be that wind conductor that is you can see out. So I'm just glad that there is a place where Black musicians can come, play, feel comfortable, have fun, enjoy just being playing. Because I think in music, we play so much, we begin to hate it. And when we begin to hate it, that we need to put it down for some time. So this is a healthy way to play it and just have fun. We ain't worrying about what the other people got to say. We ain't worrying about no judging or this and that. No. We are just playing. And I'm so thankful that you all took that initiative just to start it. And I know it's going to be absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. We're sick of being underrepresented. We're sick of inequity with disparities. We're here to put a stop to that. Even if it just starts with us and it spreads, that's what we want. We want it to spread. We want to look up and there's a Chicago African-American, Memphis African-American, Dallas African-American, whatever. Whatever we have to do. Like it's time. It's been past time.
It is. It's been
to make this change.
Do y'all have concerts planned yet for anything?
So our next rehearsal will be the 17th, October 17th. Right now we're meeting once a month. Like we said, we're still in the building stages of it. But me being president, I was like, okay, we can't wait for everything to be perfect. Because if you're always waiting for things to be perfect, you'll never get started.
Right.
So it's like we got the people, we have the venue, we got the instruments, we have the conductors, drop the downbeat. That's all we need. That's all we need. So we're meeting once a month now. Starting in the spring, we'll start to meet more often during the months, maybe every Sunday a month. That's what we're leaning toward. But for right now, just to allow people to travel, because we have people who come in from Atlanta, who are coming in from Alabama. Just the Mid-South is just not playing with this situation right now. So just to give people time to, get to us and make those plans to rehearse. But right now, we're meeting, we're reading, and it's more just about having fun and just, people finding a home. To play their instruments and to do what they studied their whole lives to do. As far as our first concert, I won't give too much information on that because we do want it to be like,
a big thing,
a big thing, a little razzle dazzle here and there. We are shooting for 2022, June 2022. To be our premiere concert, but we have more information coming soon about that. I wish I could. I wish I could just let it all out, but we want things to be a surprise on how we're going to do it. But yeah, this has just been an exciting time for what we've deemed here in Nashville the Black Renaissance in Nashville, Tennessee. We have creatives popping up all over the place with just art, music, different types of music, visual arts, theater, everything. Black people are just rising up and saying, hey, we have a place here too, and we're going to show you what we got. So that's where we are.
We love that. We love all these initiatives that you're doing, because these are the initiatives that actually change things, and they bring forth change. And this is something we were talking about before we started recording, was there are so many initiatives that they don't do much. They just kind of like apply to the systems that are already in place, and the people who are already benefiting are still benefiting. So when we see initiatives like this that are actually meant for the people, by the people, it's a difference. You can see a difference. You can see a difference in how it's seen by us, by the underrepresented, and it's just so special, and it's needed. It's more of you, more of these initiatives are needed in the community. And so we just this is something that here at Relative Pitch is everything that we love, and it's what we want to see and what we're trying to embrace and trying to encourage and push out into the field. And so we thank you for all that you're doing, all that you have done, because you are making change, and you being you and being visible is everything to us, especially me being a Black female flute player. I will tell you,
thank you.
Inspiration is everything you're doing is inspiring. So
thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So where can people find you? Hashtag Flute Bay.
Well, of course, under the hashtag Flute Bay. And you can find me at Prof Flute Bay, Prof as in professor, Prof Flute Bay, everywhere. Okay. And if you want more information about the Nashville African American Wind Symphony, you can find us at nasmusic.org or nas_music on both Facebook and Instagram. Yeah, that's the other one. Instagram.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us here and having these conversations that are just everything to us. And everyone, please go check out everything that Ashley's doing. Go check out Nas and see the amazing things that they are planning and that what they are built around. And thank you again for being here with us. And
thank you for having me. I had fun chatting with you all. It just felt like talking to friends, like just having a good conversation.
Yes, thank you.
Absolutely. And to our audience, we will see y'all next week. Hope you enjoyed. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.